Hello, everybody. This is John Browning with the Building Your Life podcast, and we are back here again today with a special guest, Jason Avery. And I'm excited about learning about his journey. He's going to introduce himself. For those of you who are new to the Building Your Life podcast, Guardian Rock Wealth is a wealth management firm that starts with what you want your best life to be. And we ask a lot of questions about that. And then we design plans to get you where you want to be. And if you would like to get in contact with us, it's very easy. GuardianRockWealth.com. Lots of free information and value there. Or text the word life to 321-421-5213. But Jason, tell us about you, who you are, what you do, why you do it. Probably the most important thing is the why you do it.
So I'm Jason Avery, and I reside in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. In 2011, I launched a remodeling business with just a few guys doing labor and a 1 day a week bookkeeper, because quite frankly, that's all it took to add up the numbers back then, And through being introduced to networking and through a little arm twisting, which led me to some training, I have had many great mentors along the way and seen some absolute exponential growth to where today 45 people essentially run the business without me. I've positioned myself to work on it versus in it. And as I've backed up to delegate and follow up, it's given me the time to help each member of that team excel and succeed on their own in the role that they perform, and even into other business ventures and opportunities on the side. I found a passion for creating successful people, and we've developed the core values that we refer to in an acronym called PI: performance, integrity, and empowerment. We want to outperform the average person around us. We want to do it honestly and integrity because we are not scared of the truth. That we're working our way through the challenges and hazards of any project, and not hiding behind what might be perceived as a mistake, but rather we're going to make solution-oriented decisions with integrity, communication, and then empowerment. Empowerment is empowering your client to make educated decisions by having all the right information, but also it's empowering the staff, eliminating those time clocks and those, ceilings created by salaries or by hourly wages, and creating a culture that everybody is incentive-based, a culture that is team-oriented to work together, a culture they want to grow together and not strangle each other in the process. Siblings will argue. At the end of the day, they still love each other. But a culture where we understand the behaviors of each other lend to different strengths and other opportunities for improvements. And we should never, criticize or hold somebody down because maybe they're not as strong as we are in a certain area, because they're probably picking up the strengths in areas that we don't desire to do every day. We want to live in our flame and not in our wax. That's a quote from Dr. Ivan Meisner. It's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so, as I freed up my time in that business, now I went on and partnered with a couple of my best salespeople, and we started the next business, a cabinet factory, to support companies like the one we already had. We knew that we had enough business to forever pay the bills while it could have a chance to stand on its own feet. And today it's another successful operation and a dozen other client contractors, relationship based, because in the remodeling world, you start every day with zero. You got to go find a new customer every day. And in this relationship-based world with contractors and designers, we could turn over, account after job after job after job with those people. And relationship has been the key to all of it. Not fearing your competition. Understanding that there's more collaboration to come from that. You're both getting the same phone calls that each other wants. Of course, you're not going to give each other the best opportunities that you want to keep. But what about the ones that you didn't want anyway? Why not see if they're an opportunity for the person on the other side? Maybe it's the geography. Maybe it's the scope of work. Maybe it's just the time of year and how busy you are and the type of client. If there's reasons that, the right person is right for the right job, why not sort them out? If you can motivate people around you by helping, they're going to want to help you too. So it's motivating the staff. It's motivating the client. It's motivating the referral partners. I love giving people a swift kick in the butt, a little encouragement, a little inspiration, lead by example, guide people down the path with a carrot. I came from corporate worlds where, people led by fear, intimidation, oh, if we don't hit the goal, somebody's getting fired. So while I learned how profits are made and financial statements are managed and average sales and close ratios and the importance of, I also learned, though, that there's a better way to get there, that people, you don't become a leader because you tell people you're the leader. You become a leader because people want to follow you. So these are some of the things I've been picking up along the way as I've been building business after business, therapeutic spa with my wife and real estate holdings. And we're just always looking for the next success story, the next talented person that comes across my way that I can mentor, I can empower with resources and connections. I can help them launch, get them started. And, these people become my friends for life. I'm never going to forget any one of the people that taught me some of these important steps along the way. They will be forever burned in my brain. They're imprinted into my life. And as I realized that effect they had on me, it made me want to create that for myself with others. And if I've been a good husband, I've been a good father, I've been a good business, employer. What's next after the grandkids? Kids are gone. Does anybody remember your name? Legacy. It's going to come by. How many lives can I impact? How many people can I encourage towards success and guide them towards that success? And then if they achieve it, how many more lives do they impact? How many other charities are they supporting? How many other ways do they give back to that community? Not just for creating jobs, creating opportunity for families. So it's a little bit inside my head, maybe a little more than you bargained for.
No, I really like the philosophy, and I think you're right. It's I escaped Wall Street a few years ago, say 5 or 6 years. It's getting close to 6 years ago now, and nothing bad, in there. I mean, there were some bad things actually on Wall Street, but it was, there are good people that work on Wall Street. That said, there are things that the way the system is set up, it becomes a bit soul sucking, if for lack of a better word. And you pointed out some of those things, and that's why I created Guardian Rock Wealth as an independent, which is not easy to do in the financial services act, because you've got these gigantic entities that can outspend you, outmarket you, and they just have more resources. But one thing that they have trouble with, arguably through no fault of their own, is really truly having their client's best interest at heart. And when you control it and you've got the kind of value set that you just described, not only can you create something that truly adds value and you can feel good about when you leave a client's house, that you've done a good job, it's going to last. If something goes wrong, you're going to make it right. It leads to a better life, which is what Build a Life, not just a portfolio, is all about. So,
two things that you just said there too. It's like, so, a former employer would tell me to write the contract vague and give the price as a total, because then if things go left or things get awry, you can wiggle your way out. Well, he wrote most of the paper and I managed most of the projects, and I had to clean up all those messes and have some very uncomfortable conversations with people along the way. And what I learned in that process is that most of those people would probably not want to refer us to the neighbor when we were done. So when I got out on my own, I went completely the opposite direction, and I created very itemized spreadsheets that would very clearly notate, I want it to be, this is included, this could happen, and here's how we handle it if it happens. And let's make it so cut and dry, black and white. There's no way that there's any room for an uncomfortable conversation. And again, Mr. Customer, I just want it to be fair to you and fair to me. And this is the only way we're really going to know, is if we get down to the pennies of it. And you know what? There were so many other benefits that came with that. The customer, instead of questioning why $5,000 seems like a lot for a demolition, well, let's break it down. We had $350 of paper and plastic to protect your surroundings. If you'd like me to remove that from the budget, I sure will, but the dust is going to fly. And, oh, no, let's leave that $350 in. Okay, I got $900 in dumpster fees here. Do you want to haul the trash to the dump yourself and make multiple trips? I can take that. No, let's leave that part in there. And so, when you start to dissect and itemize, it just removes the question marks. I'm empowering the client with the information they need to be educated on what costs what and why. And then people talk to you about a lot of things they want. Then when they realize they can't necessarily afford everything they want, some things have to come off the list. How clear is that message? When you get to the finish line, are they going to say, but I thought you said, I thought that was included. I thought we talked about that. Well, we have to have that clearly noted. Yeah, here's the day we said it might be, and here's the day we said it wasn't. And here's, it's just a budget to be reconciled and a way to keep it fair. So when you can just communicate the right information, share the facts, and keep it documented, set clear expectations, warn them of the hazards, the pitfalls, so no surprises. That's how you make the experience comfortable. If the experience is comfortable, now they at the end can refer you to the neighbor and tell a good story. And but let's face it, the construction industry is challenged with this. Everybody's heard a horror story of a contractor, and everybody's heard somebody got cheated in some way. And I like to think that in a lot of those cases, it wasn't necessarily a bad guy, a bad contractor, but maybe just a guy who was good at his craft, good at his trade, and was just not a communicator. He wasn't a business, he didn't really know how to document well, use computers maybe. Some of those guys can't turn them on, but they know how to lay some tile. They know how to make an even drywall texture. So just setting expectations and documenting it well and painting the clear picture. And then as we scale up, it just becomes knowledge by exposure. If the average guy does 1 or 2 or 3 jobs in a month, and we're pumping out 16 or 20 jobs in a month, I've seen it all at this point. There's really not much left to surprise us. But when there is, that means that there's going to be a new row inside the budget sheet or a new, line that disclaims how that scenario is handled, because we don't ever want to be shocked again. And when we bring the next new staff member on board, we want to make sure that they don't repeat the same mistakes that we've already done, and because they didn't know any better. So creating that process, that system to protect from repetitious mistakes, and that's how you keep your efficiency. That's how you can keep your margins. That's how you can stay price competitive. It's all this stuff is one big vicious circle. But if you're an owner working in your business, you're swinging the hammer, you're probably not spending any time or attention on all this stuff we're talking about. And you're probably not looking for talented people. You're probably not training the other members of your staff. You're probably not, building the process to protect you from repeating the mistakes. If you're busy swinging the hammer, are you not looking for the next job? Are you finding peaks and valleys in your business structure? So through networking, meeting other entrepreneurs and professionals who became coaches and guides and mentors, but also who gave me access to the 500 people in their network that they know. I didn't need to go meet 500 people. I needed to meet that 1 or 2 people that I could have a reciprocal relationship with. And I had to just convey that message. Can you tell your architect friend that I do 100 jobs a year and I need plans on every job? I think your friend will want to meet me. And so, it's just that simple. Can you set it up in a giver's gain way? And then when that person comes in, now are you starting on your giving strategy and your touch points for this new relationship? I'm going to immediately introduce that architect to other designers or contractors I know. I'm going to immediately invite them to some events. I'm going to bring people to their events. I'm going to start passing referrals, writing testimonials, 5-star reviews. How many times can I touch and motivate that person so that they want to help me too? I spend my time on this instead of door knocking, hanging flyers. We're going to represent at the home show because we want to be seen in our industry and our space amongst thousands of people. But a raw lead from a home show closes 15% of the time because we got to start from zero on credibility, convincing them that, we're good to work with. Whereas when somebody comes in referred, especially referred by another contractor or an architect or some industry professional referring us as the source, we're going to close 30% of the time. So we have half the time invested into making the sale. We're less time investment building credibility. We're going to probably get a higher average because they're probably going to buy more. They're more convinced. They're probably going to end up resulting in a higher margin because they're going to be easier to work with and make us more efficient. The person that you have to convince, you probably got to keep reconvincing over and over and over again, about the trust. And so when you're out there and you're trying to build will and trust with people, that's where I like to speak a lot about behavior. How's your behavior play into that? We're all wired different. Some of us are fast-paced decision makers. Some of us are more analytical, slower-paced decision makers. We need to do the research and comparisons first. Some of us are people-oriented. Where do I go today? Who do I see and interact with? I'm going to buy because I trust the person selling it to me, not because I read the fine print. Or we're task-oriented. I'm going to check the list. I'm going to be effective and efficient. I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to be a perfectionist, knock down obstacles, but not necessarily do I want to socialize a lot about it. So when we divide us up into these four corners of our behavioral tendencies, we're all unique, but there's some ways to point out how our behavior might be affecting our referability with some others. In the team building, there's ways to determine that we got the right person doing the right job. Some clients need more hand-holding, others need to get to the bottom line. Sometimes you've got husbands and wives, opposites attracted. You might have to speak two languages. That happens as well. Yeah. But we got to learn, again, what motivates people, and whether it's our staff, whether it's our client, whether it's our referral partner. We got to spend our time doing less prospecting and more nurturing the relationships with our best referral partners. And we definitely need to figure out how to incorporate a little more fun into that. And why wait till the weekend to do the fun stuff? And I'm going to buy every golf tournament, fishing tournament, or clay shooting tournament. I'm bringing people. They need motivating. It's going to be a fun way of doing it. I do an annual party for charity every year. And, the party's a $50,000 event. I get, about a third of that sponsored by other businesses these days. Everybody that comes buys a ticket for $100. All that goes 100% to support the local charity of the year. But for the big chunk of money that my company still, foots the bill for, people's like, wow, man, why would you do that? Well, I could have in a magazine ad, and I had a quarter, might have gotten a phone call or two, and based on 15% close ratio, I probably didn't make a sale. Whereas this event has 150 people attending and 900 people following on the Facebook page. It's got its own website, marketing videos, but everybody that is excited about coming is posting for 2 months leading up to it. And then another month after it happened, videos, pictures, content, just, it creates a buzz. I got, a ton of people buzzing about us, and these are close personal friends or deep relationships. Now, I mean, if I didn't know you too well and you come to the Epic Ranch party, you camp out overnight, and I see you tomorrow hung over in your underwear, our relationship goes to a whole nother level very fast. So, it just the philosophy behind how we do relationship building. Stop doing your meetings at Panera Bread and Starbucks. People forgot about it 30 minutes after they left. Figure out how to engage in common interests. And even if you don't have something in common in business with somebody, if you got common interests, we can go together. I'll bring somebody you need to meet. You bring somebody I need to meet. This is how we support each other. This is how we all grow together.
Mm-hmm. And so often it's not necessarily getting together with the express purpose of making a sale, but it's who do I know that you just could meet without expecting any business in return. And what I found is that eventually that does lead to more business, because the more people that appreciate that you introduced them to somebody for nothing, they didn't have anybody for you. That's absolutely fine. And it just works over time. It's a little slower, right? It's a little slower than some of the other ideas where it's got to be extra, or it's got to be a referral that's going to give you business, lead only. But I like introductions. Introductions are way better for me.
100%. I shoot 3-way emails or 3-way text messages all the time. And it's pretty simple. I could leave the words very generic. Hey, you're in this profession and you're in this profession. I've noticed that, while you guys don't compete, you have the same target customer at the same time. I think you should get to know each other. Right. It's that simple. There's plenty of symbiotic relationships. Let's look at some wild, big ones real quick. If you're getting married, What does that bride need? She needs a dress and a cake and a DJ and a limo. She needs the vacation for after. She needs the prenup before. Who would have thought the lawyer, the vacation planner, and the cake baker had something in common, but they're all serving the same client, same time? Who did she call first? What about if you got a car wreck? You're probably getting massage, chiropractor, personal injury attorney. If you're buying a house or selling a house, think about all the things you need. If you're buying a business, selling a business, growing or moving a business, all the things you need. Heck, what happens when I die? You probably need to talk to the life insurance, the financial planner, the estate planning, and the funeral home director, and make all those plans together. If you're thinking about it, you're going to cover all the bases, right? They should all need to meet each other. Symbiotic businesses that don't compete and have the same customers.
One of the ways I think about it too is because I'm in my business, right? Wealth management. Yeah, we all want to do the portfolio management. We want to make a lot of money and everything else. That's what most people think wealth management is all about. That's more like financial advice, but wealth management encompasses all the risks that there are. And one of the risks is in networking and doing all those things. Like you talk about life insurance, right? So do you buy term insurance? Do you buy whole life? Do you buy universal life? And all the different things. Well, they all do different things. So, and to your point about that, it's like, well, what do you want to pay for? You just want to ensure, hey, if I die, my family's going to get life insurance money. Don't care if I don't die, but I'm just unfortunately seriously injured and can't work anymore, which I think is actually maybe a worse situation in many cases. Then you just fund everything with term insurance. Now, if you do care, maybe you want a life insurance policy that has long-term care insurance built into it. But that comes at a cost, a line item cost. Maybe you want to build something that helps you reduce your taxes. So you want an
There's tons of those products, and it depends on who you're speaking to, who's your target. Because my father's needs on VA and fixed income, and are going to be a lot different, and his risk tolerance is going to be a lot different than me, who's out there driving cash flow every day and has a little more time to recover should things hit the fan. So there's different. There's something for everybody, and so some people are going to want to read into the fine print and they'll understand all those details, all those life insurances, and then there's a guy like me who's going to go off of a relationship and say, I trust that John's going to give me his best advice, and I'm going to do what he says to do. And understanding who it is you're talking to and how you can communicate best to them to set expectations and communicate what's in their interest and what's not.
Yeah, but I found the same thing with if you itemize it out. You say, hey, this is what you're paying for. This seems less expensive, but is it really? Because at the end of the day, you got zero. You paid all these premiums, you got zero at the end of the day, assuming you don't die. Or do you want to pay for the risk mitigation of all these 4 or 5 other things? You want to pay for that. If you don't want to pay for that, I've outlined it though. I've shown you what the costs are and why they're there. If you decide not to do that, well, we're going to have to try and find some other way to mitigate your taxes. We're going to have to find, something else that might be, frankly, a lot more expensive for your long-term care needs or something like that. But that whole idea of itemizing it out, I think that's where when I've made mistakes with clients, it's in either I explained it, but I needed to explain it like several times. So I've never not explained it, but sometimes you got to explain that stuff 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, because you do this stuff every day, but to them, they've never heard it before. And even though you said it very clear, they might have heard something completely different. There's a book called is it Extreme Ownership?
Oh, I just read that.
And the idea, the principle that given to us by the Navy SEALs is about three-way communication. I have to tell you, I have to have you repeat it back to me, and then I have to confirm that that's what you said the right thing. Because if not, you might shoot a friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that book. That was great. Jocko and I forget the other gentleman's name, but wrote that together, and I like those two because they don't necessarily have the ego. right?
Mhm.
I mean, it always takes ego to be, to be in a leadership position, but there's a healthy amount and then there's an unhealthy amount, and they have that balance of, yeah, they're clearly tough guys, but they also have what I call, empathy, and which is,
Yeah.
I think I'm picking up that that's how you run your business. Instead, I love that you don't do the hourly, you do the incentivized, and then you
Guys that
build.
work in the field, it's a form of piecework. I know how many pieces do you put in the ground every day? So therefore, as a manager, if I've got a guy who, comes in a little bit late and then, he has a long lunch, he maybe leaves a little early, maybe takes a couple cigarette breaks throughout the day, he's not going to get things done at the same pace as my other guy who comes in early and leaves late and works straight through lunch and doesn't smoke. And so if it's in pieces, they're each getting paid fairly. I'm not holding back the guy who wants to excel, and I don't have to crack a whip at or complain at the guy who moves it at the slower pace. They live into the lifestyle that they create for themselves. If the fast guy gets it done early, he can either take the time off and spend it with his family, or he can go take the next job and make more money. So let people run at the pace they want to run, and be able to use all the resources, because the slow guy is still talented. He's just slow. And
Yeah.
so, but setting the clear expectation with the client that this is how many days it takes to get this process done based on the manpower I've allotted. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? We have run out of time, my friend. But I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and kind of sharing, about your business, how you do it, why it works, why you do it, and all that. I think it's been hugely beneficial. Real quick, and we're going to put this in the show notes as well. How's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody needs somebody who can remodel things and is going to be honest with them?
I'll give you three quick ways. At anything construction related, my last name's Avery. It's just averyconstruction.com. If it's anything cabinet factory related, you're a contractor looking for support in the cabinet world, and designercabinetsllc.com. And if you're looking for some mentoring, some coaching, whether you're a contractor, just an entrepreneur trying to grow, you're an attorney that needs an expert witness, and it's construct-success.com.
Awesome. And we're going to have all that down in the show notes as well. Again, thanks a lot for coming on the Building Your Life podcast.
Great to be
And
here.
we will talk to you again later on.